All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we are demystifying one of the absolute coolest leaps in computer science, how artificial intelligence actually learned to process sequences, remember the past, and, well, essentially speak. If you've ever found yourself wondering exactly how your phone guesses your next text so flawlessly, or how real-time translation works, you are definitely in the right place. Let's get into it.
So first up, we have to talk about the stark contrast in the kind of data AI actually deals with. On one hand, you've got standard image classification. Think of a standard CNN, right? It classifies a single static picture of a panda. One fixed input, one fixed output. It's a simple guess. But then you have sequential data, stuff like audio waves or a strand of DNA. With this kind of data, meaning isn't just frozen in a single snapshot. It's derived entirely from the order of the information as it unfolds over time.
Here is our agenda for today. 1. The sequence problem. 2. Early sequence labeling. 3. The vanilla RNN. 4. Training and math. 5. The gradient flaw. And 6. The LSTM fix. Section 1. The sequence problem. Why normal CNNs struggle. Okay, this massive variation in sequence length perfectly illustrates exactly why CNNs fail here. Normal neural nets are built for rigid, predetermined inputs and outputs. But sequential data, it can be a completely maddening, repetitive run-on sentence like, I know that I know, on one hand, or just a simple three-word reply like, I don't know, on the other. Inputs and outputs in language are just so deeply tied to sequence length that trying to force them into a fixed structural box, well, it simply doesn't work.
So to build an AI that can actually handle this, we kind of have to borrow from human biology. Think about how you or I generate a sentence, right? Word by word. We have this hidden state, our free mind, that encodes the idea we are trying to express. At each time step, we pick a single word. And here's the crucial part. Our internal hidden state updates based on the word we just chose. That's how we remember what we just said so we can logically finish the sentence.
Section 2. Early attempts. Memoryless models and HMMs.
Now, before modern sequence models came along, engineers tried to basically hack existing architectures. Early feed-forward neural nets attempted to fake this memory using delay taps to simply look back at previous terms. But they had a strictly limited window. They were essentially memoryless. They could really only look back a couple of steps, which made it highly inefficient to grasp the deeper context of, say, a really long paragraph. Then came hidden Markov models, or HMMs. Now, these actually offered a memory-full alternative by using stochastic or probabilistic transitions between discrete hidden states, which was a step in the right direction, but it carried a massive time cost. The system had to constantly spend time inferring the hidden state distribution through guesswork. Honestly, it was heavy, it was slow, and it just wasn't the elegant solution the field really needed.
Section 3. The vanilla RNN. AI gets a deterministic memory. This brings us to the breakthrough that shattered those early roadblocks, the recurrent neural network, or RNN. When we start to unroll the network through time, we really see the magic happen. At time step 1, an input comes in, hits the hidden layer, and boom, produces an output. But instead of just wiping the slate clean for step 2, the RNN takes the hidden state from step 1 and passes it forward. It updates its hidden state in a deterministic, nonlinear way, literally feeding its chosen context back into itself as a new input.
And as the network continues to unroll through time, from step 1 all the way to step 7, you can see the hidden layer successfully passing information down the entire chain. It weaves this continuous, unbroken thread of context. Finally, the AI has a working, short-term memory. This architecture completely changed the game for sequence learning. Why? Well, first, that distributed hidden state stores vast amounts of past info super efficiently. Second, its nonlinear dynamics allow for highly complex updates. Third, and this is huge compared to those old Markov models, it is purely deterministic. There's no costly stochastic guesswork to figure out the hidden state. And lastly, it shares weights across time steps, which keeps the whole model incredibly streamlined.
Section 4. Training and the math. Backpropagation through time. Okay, training an RNN introduces a method called backpropagation through time, or BPT. Now, don't let the sci-fi name fool you. BPT is literally just standard backpropagation using the chain rule applied recursively. But because the network unrolls sequentially, instead of just moving backwards through structural layers, we actually run time backwards. We start at the very end of the sequence, figure out the error, and step backwards through the timeline to assign blame and update the weights. Pretty wild, right?
When calculating the forward pass, you see this beautiful symmetry. The activations arriving at the hidden layer come from two distinct places at the exact same time: the current external input and the hidden layer activations from exactly one step back in time. It's this perfect recursive relationship, all bound together by the math.
Section 5. The gradient flaw. When memory decays or blows up. But as brilliant as the vanilla RNN is, applying that recursive chain rule across really long time periods exposed a massive structural flaw. When you train a network using BPTT, the influence of a given input cycles repeatedly around the network's recurrent connections. Mathematically, you're multiplying the same weights over and over. If those numbers are even slightly less than 1, the gradient exponentially decays to 0. And if they are slightly more than 1, the gradient violently blows up to infinity.
This creates a mathematical nightmare with two very distinct sides, and they each need their own engineering bandages. When gradients vanish, the network practically develops amnesia for long-term dependencies, which we can usually patch up by cleverly initializing weights and throwing in some ReLU activations. But on the flip side, exploding gradients make the network wildly unstable during training. To fix that, we implement a gradient clipping trick to strictly cap the maximum value.
Section 6. The LSTM fix, long short-term memory.
However, those mathematical tricks, they were really just bandages. They weren't enough for truly long sequences, which meant we needed an ultimate structural fix. Enter the long short-term memory architecture, or LSTM. LSTMs solve the vanishing gradient problem by completely redesigning the network's core. They introduce differentiable memory blocks that function almost exactly like memory chips in your actual computer. By using continuous analogs of write, read, and reset operations via input, output, and forget gates, the network explicitly learns what new info to keep, what to read out, and what useless context to just erase over long periods. LSTMs finally gave artificial intelligence the ability to reliably hold on to the past without its training math totally collapsing on itself. It was a massive win. But it leaves us with a really fascinating question. LSTMs are fantastic for paragraphs, sure, but as our data sequences scale into the millions of time steps, what radical new architecture is going to be required to replace the LSTM and teach AI to remember the infinite? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer today. I'll see you next time.